Welcome to Azeroth United, a weekly podcast about World of Warcraft. My name is Denethar, and I am your host. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today is Tuesday, August 13th, and this is episode 48 of Azeroth United. We've got a great show lined up for you today. It's a special, very special day, and if you know from listening to the show before, you know that I'd always love to call it out. Today is Patch Day. That's right, patch 11.0.2, which is the final launch patch for The War Within, is now live on servers. Again, servers went live a few hours ago. This is it. We are in the end game now, folks, and it's coming fast. So wow, I don't even know what to say anymore. It's like I feel like Dragonflight was just barely got here, and now it's gone already. So. Anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy. And as always, if you have any questions or comments about the podcast or have a particular topic that you would like to hear discussed, please email us at azerothunitedpod@gmail.com. Also, if you enjoy the show, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps out our distribution tremendously, so if you're inclined to do so, we'd be very grateful. Now that that's out of the way, I want to comment on the longevity of Dragonflight. So I did do a Dragonflight retrospective a few weeks ago, and as Dragonflight has kind of wound down, I mean, the content is still there, and it's still max level content, and it's really lost the good majority of its relevance. So, this is it, man. We are here. The War Within is right around the corner, and I, for one, can't wait. I'm very excited. So, well, I'll do a quick rundown of what I got up to last week in WoW, because quite honestly, it was all Radiant Echoes. Well, almost all. Let's see. I have a Blood Elf Warrior. I got leveled up. I got my Warlock. I got my Priest. I'm sorry, not my Priest. My Mage. Who else did I get leveled up? I don't remember. Oh, I had two Warlocks. My other Demon Hunter. I've just been going through the list. Honestly. It's weird, though, because I'm leveling up my second Warlock right now, and so this character is one that I had been sitting on the name for a while. So my human Warlock is Rhaenyra. So if you're watching House of the Dragon, you know who Rhaenyra is. So I decided, well, I'm going to go ahead and level this character up. So I did, and so she was, I don't know, level 9 or something. And you don't get gear upgrades while you're doing this. So my heirlooms scaled up nicely, or at least they did until I got to 60, because I didn't upgrade them all the way. I had level 1 gloves. I had level 1 gloves, and I think I have level 1 bracers still. And she's 64 at this point. So it's it's a little weird, but it's as far as events go, I know a lot of people kind of poo-pooed this one, but it's not bad. You can move around pretty quickly and get your hands on those sweet memories. My biggest problem with this particular event is I feel like each zone has a number of memories that everybody ignores. So you get 2, 3, 4, 5 of them at a time, right? And there's the delivering the beer. Everyone ignores that. There's the Green Hills of Stranglethorn. Everyone ignores that. There's the there's the one in there's the Kissing the Frogs. So the Kissing the Frog down in Dragonblight. Nobody ever does that. Freeing the Crusaders from the Nerubians. Nobody ever does that. So what ends up happening is that you cycle through the same 3 or 4 memories, and if they're not up, people just kind of fly around in circles. They don't know what to do, because they're like, well, I'm not doing that one because it sucks. Because what ends up happening is you could do 3 memories in the time it takes you to do one of those memories. So I don't know. I feel like, every time Blizzard tries to do something a little different, like, oh, well, what about this? And then the player base goes, yeah, no, we don't like that. So that's kind of what's happened here. I mean, I do get it. from the standpoint of you don't want to waste your time. It's much faster to kill Thorim or Hakar than it is to run the brew up the ramp. And so I think sometimes some of these things, and maybe that's by design. I mean, you have to have bad ones so that the good ones look so much better. I don't know. Anyway, so I've pretty much been doing that all week. It's really fast. I feel like it's actually slower going from, I'd say the 20s to the 40s. Once you hit 40, it goes pretty quick. So if you haven't leveled up an alt through the Radiant Echoes event, I would definitely suggest it. Just pick a class that you want to have at level 70, set aside 4 hours of your time, and bloop, there you go. You'll have a level 70. It does go really fast. So, yeah. The other thing that I did this week is I actually logged into Classic, Cataclysm Classic. So I logged on to Season of Discovery and Cataclysm. But the reason was, I have been doing a lot of, reading and listening to podcasts about Classic Plus and about Cataclysm and what's going on with Classic. And it's weird because right as we're about to hit the War Within, I'm starting to get that itch for Classic. I'm like, oh man, I want to play Classic again. So it's really odd. Bad timing, bad brain. But yeah, so I was messing around in Classic, played my Paladin a little bit, played my Death Knight. No, I didn't play my Death Knight. I spec'd my Death Knight because I'll tell you right now, I logged in and it was like, oh, your talents have been reset. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I was like, oh shoot, I don't know how to do Cataclysm talents. The last time I played this character was in Wrath of the Lich King. So I had to look it up because it's been a minute since I played Cataclysm. So I did that. Same thing with the Paladin. The Paladin is a lot easier though because the talents make more sense. I feel like the Death Knight talents are just weird. And then on Season of Discovery, I did log on to my Paladin. I felt bad because I logged on and I was still in my old guild, the guild that I abandoned. They wanted me to heal in Sunken Temple, and I abandoned that character at 44. So, yeah, I felt a little bad there, but whatever. As soon as there was no one on in the guild, I G quit. So, so it's all good. So if you, sorry, old guild. Anyway, yeah, it's I don't know why I do this, but I'm like, I'm so excited about the War Within, and I'm like, I want to play Classic for a little bit. That sounds like fun. So I don't know what the deal is. And maybe it's, I know going into the War Within, there's going to be that kind of lull, which, I mean, we're supposed to use it for leveling, but let's be honest, everybody's going to be frustrated because you can't do dungeons. You can't do high level delves. There's no raids. People are going to be frustrated because there's going to be, if you're counting early access, it's going to be 2.5 weeks of nothing to do other than level. And I don't think that's going to be good. People are not going to love that. So, but anyway, I don't know. We'll see. I'm just there's a lot of the War Within coming up. So yeah. There's going to be plenty. And we're going to talk about some of the lore going into the War Within today. I did not mention that was what the main topic of the show is going to be. We're almost 9 minutes into the podcast, and I'm just now getting to the point. But yeah, so we'll go over the news, and then we'll do the main topic of the week. Yeah, so let's get into the news.
It's time for the news.
In Blizzard news, so before we get into any World of Warcraft news, we will talk about some Blizzard news. We'll actually do that for once. So Windows Central reported this, and this was actually written by Jez Corden. So if you don't know who Jez Corden is, he's the co-host of the Unshackled Fury podcast, along with Berserker. It's a pretty good podcast. I really like Berserker. Jez, not overly fond of, but you know what? He's pretty good, and he's a good writer. So anyway, so he did report on this that came up a week and a half ago. that Microsoft and Activision have formed a new team within Blizzard to work on smaller games based on existing IPs. So basically what they're saying is that they're going to take some of the employees from King and move them under Blizzard. So I guess the goal here is, and they're not saying specifically mobile games, they're just saying smaller games. And some people have said AA games instead of AAA games. But, because a smaller game doesn't have to be mobile. It could be on a PC as well. But the goal here is to take the existing IPs of Blizzard and basically milk them and get some content out of them. For one, I'm thinking of StarCraft. StarCraft has been sitting dormant for years now. And that's a great IP. You could make so many games out of StarCraft. I mean, they tried to make a shooter out of it. You could make a League of Legends type game out of StarCraft. Honestly, that would be kind of fun. But there's a lot of potential with StarCraft as an IP. You've got your Overwatch IP, you've got Warcraft IP, you've got Diablo IP. So this is a pretty interesting news article. They haven't. There's been no word on like what specifically they're working on. Just that this is a team that has been formed to start doing this sort of thing. So, last year, was it last year? Or the beginning of this year? Earlier, when the big layoffs happened at Activision Blizzard, after the Microsoft takeover, one of the casualties from that was the survival game, which was supposed to be a new IP. And I think that rather than focusing on building new IPs, they're going to use the existing IPs. Now, obviously, there's plenty of games that utilize the Warcraft IP. You've got the Warcraft real-time strategy games. You've got World of Warcraft. You've got Hearthstone. You've got Warcraft Rumble. So there's a lot that's gone into the Warcraft. And Diablo also. You got Diablo Immortal. You had Diablo 4 that just launched. Diablo 2 resurrected. Diablo 2 resurrected. StarCraft and Overwatch both, I think, could stand from... how great would it be to have like an adventure game with the Overwatch characters, right? Instead of just playing a PvP type thing. And they could even take the story that they had originally written for Warcraft or Overwatch 2, and they could turn that into an adventure game or turn that into a whatever. I mean, there's so many different options that you could do. So many different ways you could go. You could turn StarCraft into a spaceship simulator, kind of like an EVE Online that's not a toxic wasteland of horrible people. So anyway, this is a new thing that hopefully we'll get some cool games out of. I'm very much looking forward to it. And hopefully these employees that are moving over to the Blizzard side of things will be able to join the new Blizzard Union. I don't know. That union might just be for Warcraft people that are working on the Warcraft IP. But I guess we'll see. So, all right. In other news, so we've got a couple things that popped up here. So there's starting with the launch of The War Within, there's a new Twitch drop. And so there's two things. There's a Twitch drop for the your typical watch 4 hours of Twitch, and you'll get a free mount. In this case, it's the where'd I go? It's like an undead skeletal horse mount. It's pretty cool. Here it is, Ghastly Charger mount. The other thing is, if you gift 2 subs to a Twitch streamer, you will get the Watcher's Innocent, which is a kind of like a green ghostly owl pet. So if you feel like donating some subs to Twitch streamers, definitely check that out. That's starting on August 26th with the launch of The War Within. The mount will be available until September 19th. And the pet will be available until September 26th. So I will definitely be doing a lot of streaming going into the launch of The War Within. Not that you have to donate any Twitch subs to me. I'm not asking for that. But definitely check out the stream. I'll make sure that I promote that in the show coming up soon. So, all right. In other news, the Mists of Pandaria remix will be ending soon, and Blizzard have announced what that's going to look like for those characters that will level up, that were leveled up in the mob remix. So you got your mob remix character, and they've got how many threads and their item level, whatever, and that none of that means anything. So what's going to happen is your character is going to get moved over to the War Within and turn into an air quote real character. They will get item level 467 gear, and it doesn't say whether or not this is going to be upgradable. I would guess not, but we'll see. So item level 467 gear appropriate to their current specialization. So make sure you log out in the correct spec so that you will get the correct gear. You don't want to get a shield and a sword if you're trying to play a Fury Warrior. They're going to get 4 30 slot bags, and a 26 slot reagent bag. So no, you don't get to keep those 36 slot 10 bronze bags that you bought. Those will go away, which is unfortunate, but that's how it goes. It says that you will not be able to retain any bronze, so you're not going to get any currency conversion either. So your bronze will just go away. So make sure you spend it. Buy whatever you can, if you don't need anything, well, then it doesn't really matter. But it's going to go away. So don't expect that the bronze, if you've stockpiled bronze hoping for some sort of conversion, that's not going to happen. So I do warn that the conversion will take several minutes after we log in. So for the first time you log into that character, so just be ready. And so this is this is obviously the first time they've done this. We didn't get to keep our Plunderstorm character because we didn't really make a character in Plunderstorm. This is a real character that is a real World of Warcraft character that we will be playing or potentially be playing in the War Within. So item level 467 will give you gear that's good enough to run through the first few levels before needing upgrades in the War Within. So you probably get to 74, 73, 74, 75, somewhere in that range before you start getting upgrades. It's I don't know if it feels like it's the end of an era. I'm going to do the next week's show is going to be the Mist of Pandaria review of the remix. I want to talk about what worked, what didn't work, and all that. So, but it's ending Monday night. I think it's Monday at like 10 p.m. or something weird like that. So, log onto your remix tunes. Make sure they're in good shape. Make sure they're good to go. And they will be available to join your characters in Valdrakken or wherever you happen to be logged in or logged out. Oh, no, actually, so the characters will be taken to Orgrimmar for Horde and Stormwind for Alliance. So if you've got a Horde character, they'll go to Orgrimmar and Stormwind for the Alliance. So, so there's not going to be a, we've got to send you here. You got to make your own way. So, but because of the war bands, you don't have to get flight paths. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. And if you want to get gear for these characters that's a little higher level than 467, you can get the Radiant Echoes gear. I think if you get the drops, it's warbound, and so you can put that in the war bank. Or you could just give them the currency, the memories currency, and then they could go buy their own gear. So that's an option too. However you want to handle it, but just know that those characters will be converting. And a lot of people have complained about the item level is too low and the bags is too small. And I think this is fine. This is an event. This is a learning event for Blizzard, where they are learning how these characters are going to work and how this is going to go. I'm personally hoping that we get another remix event like this soon, and by soon I mean within the next year or two. Hopefully everything goes smoothly, and this is a good lesson learned for Blizzard in how to properly handle these sorts of transfers. So that's pretty cool. That's does it say? Oh, okay. It says available to play through August 19th, and will shut down on August 20th at 7 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Monday, August 19th will be your last day to log in. And so, you definitely want to make sure that you are all set. If you have, like I said, if you have bronze and you haven't spent it all and you have things that you haven't bought yet, go buy them right now, because you'll forget, and then it'll be Monday and you'll be like, crap, I forgot to spend my bronze. So, All right. Moving on. So, Blizzard did. So there was a whole back and forth, up and down on the Transmog, and I don't need to get into all the nitty gritty of the back and forth of Blizzard. No, I'm going to get into it. So what happened was Blizzard said, "Hey, or no, on the beta, when you did a quest, you would get all of the Transmog available for that quest. So imagine right now if there's cloth, there's leather, there's mail, there's plate that are available from a particular quest. If you do that quest on a hunter, right now in Dragonflight, you'll get the mail appearances, whatever those are. Well, on the beta for the War Within, people were getting every single appearance, the cloth, the leather, the whole shebang for their warband. And when the patch launched, patch 11.0.0, that wasn't happening, and people were like, "Hey, is this how it's gonna be going forward?" So somebody actually posted this on the forums. This is the EU forums, and they did get a response, basically saying, "Oh no, it's not supposed to. That's not going to happen. You're not going to get all the transmogs," which people were not happy with, because if you show the WoW players something that they're gonna get, and they think they're gonna get, and then you take it, air quote, take it away, they're gonna be mad, which is what happened in this case. So Blizzard did come back. This is a couple days ago. So Kyvax posted this on the EU forums. Following the introduction of warbands, we've seen a lot of discussion and received a lot of feedback from Transmog collectors. We want everyone to know that we're currently working on some improvements to appearance collecting that are planned for the next patch after the release of the War Within. Versus an update to class-restricted gear, we're working on to make it so that non-cosmetic class-restricted gear can have its appearance collected by any class. Appearance collection will be retroactive to any gear in your inventory or bank. The intent is to make it much easier to collect class sets from legacy raids where the gear drops directly. So, for example, if you run Molten Core and you get a piece of Lawbringer on your warrior, well, right now it's basically just vendor trash, and you don't get that appearance. But you're going to get that starting in patch 11.0.5. The other thing is we're still working on the much-discussed update that makes it so when quests are completed, all appearances from non-cosmetic item rewards will be granted. Regardless of whether that particular class could have seen or chosen them, we plan for this to be retroactive. So any quest that you previously completed should grant all qualifying appearances when you first log into any character. The intent here is to remove the need for completing these quests on multiple classes in order to collect all the appearances they provide. Now, when they say things like, "we plan for this to be retroactive," they mean it might not be. So don't count your bananas before they're peeled. I don't know if that's a saying. I just made that up. So the other thing is they want you to be able to get all the appearances on one character, which I get that. But I actually don't like this change. I don't. I actually feel like it's something that you should go and earn those appearances on a appropriate character. I don't know. Maybe it's fine. I don't know. I feel like it's taking something away. One of the biggest thing that we get out of World of Warcraft from playing it is gear. Whether it's transmogs or actual gear upgrades that you can use to make your character stronger, however that looks. And I feel like they're taking away one of the big components of that, which is the transmog. But I guess from a certain point of view, it doesn't really matter. You're really, the only thing that you need in WoW is to upgrade your gear and make it stronger, more powerful. A transmog is just gravy. So I guess it's okay. I don't know. I'm flip-flopping here. It just feels weird. I think as somebody who's played since vanilla, and I played back when it was air quote hard, and I don't mean hard as in difficult, hard as in it took you forever to do stuff. You're like, hey, I really want to get this thing. Oh, better enjoy spending 4 days doing one quest line. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll see how this feels. But it's not coming until it says our intent is to implement the above with the next patch after the launch of the War Within, which will be 11.0.5, which I believe is supposed to come sometime in like October, November, but they haven't given us an exact date yet. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. All All right, and the final thing, the final bit of news, aside from the patch that was just released today, and we'll talk about the patch just a little bit. So there was a new WoWCast video that was released. And if you're not familiar with the WoWCast videos, it's like a fake interview with the devs. I don't know. It's Morgan Day, who's associate game director. You've got lead UX designer Laura Sardina, and lead gameplay engineer John Mark Hempel. And it was fine. It's a good interview. I do feel like these fake interview. It's like a imagine a talk show where everything is scripted, right? That's kind of how it feels, and it's fine. Because their purpose is to give us information, right? They're trying to do it in a different way than just somebody standing there and reading from a cue card, which I do get that, and make it look more conversational and things. But I don't know. Sometimes it just rubs me the wrong way. Like, this is so fake. A couple of things that we got out of this video. So there's they were talking about the user interface and how they're changing the icons. And we've already seen these icons on Dragonflight, where you've got the blue icon, the blue exclamation mark with the spikes around it to let you know, hey, here's an important weekly quest and stuff like that. But one of the things I found to be really interesting is they give you the option to say, hey, how are you going to aid the people of Khazalgar? So right now, like, we're doing the Last Hurrah. And I don't know about you, but every time I go to pick up the Last Hurrah, I always get Zerlek Cavern. For the last 4 weeks or whatever it's been since the pre-patch launched, it's always Zerlek Cavern. So, but in this case, they're offering us the choice. They're saying World Quest's Theater Troop, which is a public event, like imagine like a Researchers Under Fire or the Community Feast or something like that. You've got the Rookery, which is a dungeon, and you've got a world boss. So I guess this is what they were talking about when they were saying, hey, the first 2 of these types of things that you do a week will give you veteran gear, and then everything else will give you adventurer gear. So I guess that's what they're going for here. So if you're like, hey, I'll run a dungeon, that's cool. You could do that. Or you could say, I don't really feel like running a dungeon unless it's Mythic Plus, so I'll do the world boss or whatever. You can choose what you want to run, which I really like that. I think it's pretty cool. Rather than the Last Hurrah, where it's like, hey, here's the activities that we need you to do, or even before that, where it was aiding the Accord, you had to get a certain amount of rep, and you had to do a different thing every week. So I like this. I think it looks good. The other thing that I found was really interesting, and a couple of people pointed that out, that in one of the screenshots they have of the warband, there's a Drakthir holding 2 two-handed axes. So are we getting Drakthir, new Drakthir classes? Because that would be pretty dope. I'll tell you right now, I don't know that I have any alts that I need a Drakthir for. But, it's like I've got my Evoker, and that's fine. But, I wouldn't mind having a Drakthir that could maybe be a mage or a rogue. Oh, a rogue Drakthir would be cool. The big old lizard wings flapping in the background. I might have to make a Drakthir rogue if that's something that we can make. So anyway, so that's coming soon, hopefully. Maybe even with patch 11.0.5 as well. That would be pretty cool. I would be really down with that. So if you haven't seen this video, check it out. They go over a lot of the design details and some of the inspiration behind what they're doing. They talk about how you're going to get the gear from delves that you're going to get in the Great Vault is going to be better than the end of dungeon chest, end of Mythic plus 10 chest. So I think right now Mythic Dungeon plus 10 end of dungeon is supposed to be Hero 2. So I guess we're going to get Hero 2 or Hero 3 from Delves, which is pretty huge for people who are not planning to do Mythic Plus. Getting that high level of hero gear it's pretty massive. So it's pretty exciting. And just check out the video. Like I said, just go into it knowing that it's this kind of fake interview format. Where it's pre-scripted, but they are getting better. They are getting better with this. Whoever's running Blizzard's social media, they're doing a good job. But putting video game developers in front of a camera is not always a good thing, even if it's like, all right, and these people they're somewhat able to handle this. So, anyway, check that out. I'll put the link in the show notes, and you can watch it for yourself, the YouTube video. The final thing that I wanted to mention here in the news before we get into our main topic of the week is the patch 11.0.2 updates. So the biggest thing, there's a lot of class changes, but the biggest thing that to know going in is we're getting all of the tank changes now that were discussed and planned for coming in. So if you'll recall, Blizzard did say that they were basically nerfing tanks. And I think nerfing is a harsh word. They're changing the way that tanks work. And I don't feel like it's a bad thing. I feel like it's just something that needs to be gotten used to. I feel like a lot of people who are like, this is terrible, Blizz, they don't really understand exactly how it works. I mean, Blood Death Knights, for example, are getting some buffs in addition to some nerfs. So basically what's happening is they're buffing some spells, they're buffing their damage, they're buffing their bone shield armor, but they're modifying the way that Death Strike works, so it can only heal once per amount of damage taken, things like that. So I would say read over the show notes. You've got a week and a half before. Is it a week and a half? Yeah, just under a week and a half before the early access comes in. If you don't have early access, then you're just shy of 2 weeks before the launch. So you do have some time to go over these show notes and look at the patch notes and look over your favorite class, or you can log in and just check it out. But sometimes it's good to know what has changed, because you could log on and play your character and go, this feels a little off, but I don't know what feels off. So sometimes it's good to know exactly what changed, and you can modify your playstyle appropriately. One thing that I did want to point out, especially for tanks, is that cooldown durations have been reduced. So if you have a cooldown that you hit the cooldown and it lasts for 8 seconds, those are being reduced. Some of them are being reduced from like 8 to 6 seconds, or from 9 to 6, or 12 to 8, or whatever. But the idea is, you have to be a little bit more focused with your cooldowns when you use them. So if you're tanking and you're used to just Deadly Boss Mod says defensive, and you hit the button and you don't really know what you're doing, you better make sure you time it right, or you will take a big hit without having an active defensive on there. So definitely read through the patch notes. It's worth doing it. I have not finished reading through them myself. I started reading through them, and it's like, there's a lot of patch notes. So, there's some UI changes and things like that. But anyway, check that out. And, you may or may not be happy that you did. All right. Let's move on to the main topic of the week.
It's time for the main topic of the week.
So I've been wanting to do a lore-focused video on the War Within, and to be perfectly honest, I didn't really have the script writing chops to be able to put that together. So I do have all of my notes that I've been going through, and I did want to talk about everything, but I'm not going to do this as a YouTube video. I'm going to discuss this in the podcast. And I might break out part of this and put it into a YouTube video at some point. We'll see. But more than anything, I just wanted to give a quick overview of some of the new factions that we're going to be meeting in the War Within, and what we should know going into our interactions with these factions. I don't want to get into a whole bunch of spoilers from the beta, because quite honestly, I don't feel like that's interesting to talk about the things that you're about to find out. So I would rather talk about what we already know from publicly available information, what Blizzard has announced, and just go through from that standpoint. So first off, and also, we're going to do a little bit of talking about everybody's new favorite villain, Xal'atath. So starting with the Nerubians. So what are Nerubians? Nerubians are a race of spider-like people that dwell underground. There are two major Nerubian kingdoms that we know of. So there's Azj-Kahet, which is where we're about to be going, and there's Ankahet, which is in Northrend. So if you recall from Wrath of the Lich King, the Nerubians that we fight there are all undead. And that's because the Nerubians up there got kind of screwed. So Ner'zhul, who was the original Lich King, went up to Northrend and started building his undead army. He took over manipulated as many of the native races to Northrend as he could, but he couldn't control the Nerubians. They were uncontrollable by the Lich King's domination magic, which we now know is from the Shadowlands. So they fought a war, and the Nerubians started losing that war. It's hard to fight against a unkillable skeleton undead army. So the Nerubians started digging, trying to escape the Lich King. And when they did, they accidentally dug a little too deep, and they unearthed the tendrils of Yogg-Saron, which is why we have to deal with Yogg-Saron in Wrath of the Lich King. So if you ever played Wrath of the Lich King and thought, where the hell did Yogg-Saron come from? This is so random. That's why. Because of the Nerubians, so you can blame them. So anyway, so they had no choice but to try to make peace with the Lich King, so they accepted servitude rather than extinction. And so the Lich King made them all undead, and so that's where you get a Nubarak and all the different Nerubians that we've seen. Crypt Lords, sometimes you'll see them listed as a monster type, but they're Nerubians. They're just undead Nerubians. So all the way back to Naxxramas, you had was that Anubakan, and then Anubarak obviously is the main king that you fight in the Trial of the Grand Crusader. So that's the Northrend Nerubians. Now, the Nerubians that we're going to be fighting in the War Within are the Nerubians from the Kingdom of Ashkahet. Now, if you've seen the cinematic that came out last week, the 2.5D kind of comic book style cinematic, you'll know that the Nerubian Kingdom was a very powerful kingdom. And we don't know specifically the timeline of this cinematic. Most people have suspected that the Naraki, the faceless one who came to recruit the Nerubians, was this is around the time of Battle for Azeroth and the fight in Ny'alotha. So what Ansarek says in the voiceover narration is that the old gods came to conscript us for their final stand at Ny'alotha, and my mother refused them. So if you want to go back and watch that, you can. But the point is, we don't know how long this kingdom has been there, because some people have speculated that this is really old and that this was at the time of the end of the Black Empire. Maybe, maybe not. The reason that most people suspect that it was not is that the Nerubians did not exist at that time. So the Nerubians are actually, they are formed out of a different race. So they're all, the Nerubians are descended from the Akir. Other races that are descended from the Akir are the Karaji, which you may remember from Ankaraj, and the Mantid from Pandaria. So if you ever thought, well, why are all these bug races around? That's why. They're all descended from the Akir. So there you go. Which the Akir, actually, we're starting to get into the weeds here, but we're already going off the rails. The Akir were actually formed from the droppings, like the liquid from the old gods that were burying themselves into the surface of Azeroth hundreds of thousands of years ago. The Akir came about because of that. So if that's not weird, I don't know what is. But yeah, that's basically where the Nerubians came from. They were descended from the Akir. So the main villains of, or the main henchmen of the old gods were the Akir, and they were kind of like the worker soldiers, and the Naraki, or the faceless ones, and they were like the commanders and the generals. So but yeah, the Nerubians are basically descended from them, but that didn't happen until many, many years after the Black Empire had fallen to the Titans, or the Titan Watchers. So it's possible that Blizzard is going to retcon and say, well, no, actually, the Nerubians were around back then. Ashkahet was around back then. Sure, they could do that. But I don't really feel like it's necessary. I don't feel like it ruins the story by saying, hey, the Nerubian kingdom of Ashkahet fell apart in the 7 years after the refusal to join N'Zoth's forces at Ny'alotha. I don't think that's unreasonable to say, hey, they were struggling. Now, how long they were there, we don't know. We don't know how long the Rubians lived. We know we know that Anubarak lived for a long time, but we don't know specifically how long their lifespan is. What we do know is that their kingdom was on the downslide until Xal'atath showed up and gave them the power from the blood of the old gods. And now their kingdom is big and thriving and powerful, and we're going to have to go fight them. So as you're winding your way through Azj-Kahet and you're looking at all the architecture and you're looking at these giant spider people or crab people, if you have the arachnophobia mode turned on, just know that that's where they came from. They are basically descended from the old gods themselves. So why... This is why we want to fight the Nerubians. Now, when the Lich King's forces were attacking the Nerubians in Northrend, keep in mind that you basically have forces that are descended from the Void, which is the Nerubians, and forces that are descended from the Burning Legion, which are the Lich King. And if you remember from your cosmological chart, those are on they're on not opposite ends of the cosmological circle, but they're certainly not from the same place. So you've got Fel and Disorder for the Burning Legion, and you've got Void and Shadow for the Old Gods. All right, so that's the Nerubians. And like I said, I don't want to go into any spoilers of, hey, here's what's going to happen when you get into the beta, or when you go play the War Within in 2 weeks. You'll find out. You'll go through the quest line, and there's a lot of they're gonna really. I feel like Blizzard has done a good job with the story so far, and I really am excited to see where it goes. Specifically for the Nerubians, because they're building them up pretty well so far. So, all right, I don't want to talk about the Nerubians the whole time. Let's talk about the Arathi. So the Arathi, if you played vanilla World of Warcraft, you might, or Battle for Azeroth, you might recall the Arathi Highlands as a zone that you could go do things in, or Plunderstorm, honestly, for that matter. The Arathi Highlands, so named for the Arathi tribe that was living there. The Arathi are a human tribe that obviously humans are descended from the Vrykul, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't matter. The Arathi were one of the more powerful tribes, but they were just one of the human tribes at the time. We're talking thousands of years before the Dark Portal. But the most powerful Arathi tribal chief or whatever, he saw the escalation of the war with the trolls. So the trolls, the Amani trolls, the Amani Empire at the time, were fighting with the elves of Quel'Thalas. And they were also fighting some skirmishes with the different human tribes. And if you look at a map of the Lordaeron area, you can see Quel'Thalas to the north, the human area to the south, and the Amani area in the middle. So the Amani were basically fighting a war on two fronts, but they could do that at the time because the elves were weak and the humans were unorganized. So Thordan, being the tactical genius that he was from so many battles with the trolls, decided, hey, we stand a better chance of survival if we all work together. And so he went through, and one by one, he either conquered or made deals with the other human tribes, to the point where he created the Arathi Empire, the first Arathi Empire. So that is basically where the Arathi came from. Now, obviously, when Thordan died, it didn't last because his personality is what held it together. And so it broke into 7 kingdoms, which is where we get Lordaeron and Gilneas and Arathor and Stormwind, Alterac, all these other human kingdoms. So yeah, that was the formation. And this, like I said, we're talking thousands of years ago. But during the Empire, while it was still around, the elves made a deal with the humans and said, hey, if you agree to help us, because we don't have enough soldiers, but we do have magic. So if you agree to help us, we will teach 100 of your people how to use arcane magic. Basically, they're going to turn them into mages. So, you want to talk about a respec. Hey, farmer, you're now a mage. Well, okay. So they did. They trained 100 mages, and the elves and humans combined defeated the Amani trolls. And so there was a little bit of a alliance between the two of them. Not anything formal. It was more like, hey, we're both friends with each other. So without going into too much detail for The War Within, if you've seen any of the cinematics, you know that the humans that we've seen, the Arathi that we have seen, have elf-like ears. They're basically half-elves, which begs the question, well, did the elves and the Arathi get together? Sorry. Did the elves and the Arathi get together? Well, it sure looks like they did. And it looks like we're going to get some detail about what happened that caused them to leave Erethdor in the first place, how they got to where they went, and where the rest of their people are. Because, again, not wanting to get into too much detail, but the Arathi that we meet in The War Within are an expedition. So they are not the full strength of the Arathi Empire. Whatever that is and whatever that looks like going forward. So there will be some role for the Arathi going forward. But that's where they came from. So if you're trying to put together like, hey, Arathi Highlands and Arathi Empire, and how does this make sense? And Hollowfall is beautiful, but it's confusing as heck. Yeah, it is, because they're not giving us all the details. And there's going to be some reveals, I will tell you that, of who some of these Arathi are and how they relate to the people that we know from Warcraft, World of Warcraft, and the Warcraft real-time strategy games, if you are familiar with those. So, and I will tell you this, from playing on the beta, there is a lot of Anduin in the Hollowfall storyline, so just keep that in mind. Right, so that's the Arathi. All right. Yeah, we're getting through this. Let's move on to the Earthen. So, oh boy, how do I explain this? So the Earthen are a Titan creation. So what happened was the Titans physically couldn't come down to Azeroth because they're too big. They're just too damn big. They would destroy the planet just by touching it. How did they interact with the planet then? They created the Titan Keepers and the Titan Watchers. So you get like Odin and Loken and Arcadus. Remember the boss from Uldaman, the original Uldaman. Tyr is another one. So, these are the Titan Watchers. They kind of keep... They enforce the Titan's will on Azeroth. So they created a lot of new races on Azeroth to kind of work as manual labor for lack of a better term, but soldiers and things like that. So they needed to create an army. So where you get the Vrykul, the dwarves, the gnomes, these were all created by the Titans or the Titan Watchers. At some point along the way, and when I say created, I literally mean they made them. They were all essentially constructs, right? So if you think of like Mechanome, that's kind of the idea here. They're not flesh and blood. At some point along the way, these people were cursed by the old gods, and they called it the curse of flesh, which they turned from these kind of construct robot type bodies to flesh and blood. Which is how you ended up with the dwarves of Ironforge and the gnomes of wherever the heck the gnomes are from. Gnomergon. Like, where's the gnome city? Oh, that's right. They destroyed it. The Vrykul obviously exist in Northrend, but there was some that were mutated, kind of like a weird offspring that were smaller than everyone else, and those turned out to be humans. So that's where the humans came from, I should say. So anyway, the point is that all of these races were created by the Titans. So humans, dwarves, and gnomes were all Titan creations. Somewhere along the way, and we don't have all the exact details because, again, we're not getting into any heavy spoiler territory, and Blizzard is revealing this a little bit at a time, this story. Somewhere along the way, the Earthen didn't get the Curse of Flesh, and they went off into Khazalgar, which is where they are now, and they started their own society. So that's why they don't have normal dwarf bodies. So if you look at the Earth and you think they look like dwarves, they act like dwarves, they don't sound like dwarves, they sound like normal people, they don't sound like this fake Scottish accent. That's kind of the story there, is that they are non-Curse of Flesh Titan creations. And their society has a lot of... I mean, it's going to be really tough to go into any more detail without getting into spoilers. So the only thing I will say is there's more to the Curse of Flesh than just having skin. It literally turns them into flesh and blood creatures that function in very similar ways to Earth IRL humans do. Whereas a creation or a construct, think about it like a robot, it's going to function a little bit differently. And the Earth and Dew function a little bit differently. So we'll leave it there. Most of that story detail is revealed in the very first zone. So you won't have to wait long to, and that's the Isle of Dorn. You won't have to wait long to understand a little bit more about the Earthen. But just know that that's where they came from, and that's why they look like robot dwarves, or Earth rock dwarves, or however you want to call them. So, there you go. All right. There's a few more races in the War Within, but these are the main ones that we are going to be interacting with. And so, there's the Harrenere, and I don't want to get into the Harrenere because... So if you watched the trailer for the War Within, the one that was like the live action style trailer, you see a troll elf looking woman doing some weird elemental dance. That's the Harrenere. I'm not going to go into any detail about them because they only got a little bit of story that we've seen so far in the beta, and so I'll let that one happen organically. Just know that that's the Harrenere, and they do look kind of like troll elves. So where that goes, we will see. Okay, so the final thing that we're going to talk about is, of course, you have to, if you're going to do a lore segment, you got to talk about Xal'atath. A lot of people were very surprised when we got Xal'atath announced as the main baddie for the War Within, and not because they thought, oh, I didn't expect us to get Xal'atath as a baddie. No, they were like, who the heck is Xal'atath? Who is this person, this elf lady, and why is she evil? Well, that's a really good question. And there's actually a really good answer, and it's awful. It's terrible for us. It makes us look really bad. Okay, so let's start with, what is Xal'atath? Well, we don't know exactly what Xal'atath is. We do know that Xal'atath is somehow related to the Void. Xal'atath is being called the Harbinger, but what exactly that means, I don't know if that's an official job title. Is she going to put that on her LinkedIn, or is this like just what she is acting in this capacity right now? So Xal'atath is the Harbinger, and Xal'atath has been around for a long time, like as in the Black Empire, a long time, and we're talking hundreds of thousands of years ago, way before the Night Elves and the War of the Ancients and all this. We're thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of years ago. Xal'atath was around then, but we don't know where she came from. We don't know if she was an old god. We don't know if she's part of an old god. We don't know if she's something else entirely. We don't know. And Blizzard has not told us. What we do know is that at some point after or during the end of the Black Empire, Xal'atath's essence became trapped in the dagger that we know from the Legion artifact questline. But the dagger went through a long journey before it made its way into the hands of a Shadow Priest. So the dagger was very influential to a lot of, and by influential, I mean negatively influential to a lot of different people over the years. We have a couple of examples. So if you recall, when I talked about the Nerubians and how they weren't around at the time of the Black Empire, the reason for this is that the way that we know this is because we are familiar with the Akir and Troll War. So remember, the Trolls have been around for a long time. Trolls were actually one of the first races on Azeroth, first mortal races. The Akir and Troll War, which according to the lore that we have, is about 16,000 years before the Dark Portal. So about 6,000 years before the War of the Ancients, for those keeping score. And I don't want to get into too much detail about this because it's not really important to the overall storyline, but just know that there was a troll who was named Xando, and Xal'atath appeared to him as the dagger and guided him to resurrect a Cataclysm general to fight against the trolls. And the long and short of it is, Xal'atath manipulated this troll into doing something bad. And that's how we ended up with the Nerubians, that's how we ended up with the Karaji, and that's how we ended up with the Mantid as a result of the actions of this troll under the influence of Xal'atath. So, what does that mean for us? Well, it just means that Xal'atath was involved in history for many years. Another really, really big example that we know of Xal'atath manipulating people is that so the War of the Three Hammers, which is the Dwarf War that took place, I think it was 300 years before the Dark Portal was opened. So Modgud was the name of the wife of King Thorasan, who was the ruler of the Dark Iron Dwarfs. So without doing a whole dwarf family tree, Modgud and Thane Thorasan were the parents of Dagran Thorasan, who was the Blackrock Depths, the emperor that we have to kill at the end of Blackrock Depths. So this is his father and mother. So basically, the same type of thing happens. Xal'atath appeared to Modgud and revealed to her that she could use the dagger to attack the Wildhammer trolls at Grim Batol. So at the time, the Wildhammers were based in Grim Batol, and this is one of the reasons why we're going to Grim Batol in the War Within. It was one of the dungeons that we're getting, because there's lore there. But basically, that's how Grim Batol ended up being cursed. And then, of course, the dagger disappeared, leaving Modgud to her fate. But the long and the short of it is, Xal'atath has been manipulating events throughout the years. So how did Xal'atath come to be? How do we become familiar with Xal'atath? Well, in Legion, Shadow Priest is sent to go recover the Black Blade of the Empire as an artifact weapon to use against the Burning Legion. And if you played a Shadow Priest in Legion, then you're already familiar with the story, but the quick and dirty of it is you have to go and recover the Xal'atath blade from the Tomb of Tyr, where Tyr died fighting the Cataraxi general that was summoned by the Troll Xando during the Akira and Troll War. And so you have to go there, and then you have to use it to kill the Cataraxi general. So doesn't really matter. The point is, the priest got the dagger and used it throughout Legion. But during that time, the dagger whispered to the priest constantly, trying to encourage and promote more dark and violent behaviors from the Shadow Priest. And Shadow Priests are already a little dark and a little edgy because you're dabbling in the void. So this makes some level of sense. Well, at the end of Legion, as you all know, we sacrificed our artifact weapons, or sacrificed our power to protect the planet from Sargeras' sword that was stabbed into Silithus, and blah, blah, blah. You played Legion, or you know, or if you didn't play Legion, then that's what happened. We used the dagger that way. And so at some point after Legion, the dagger, or the Shadow Priest who had the dagger in canon, lost it. And we don't know how or why, even though you might, if you played a Shadow Priest in Legion, you might have it in your bank. But then during Battle for Azeroth, Xal'atath reappeared. And this is during the questline for the Crucible of Storms raid that was released. I forget when that was. Anyway, so basically, you come to find out that there's a group of Naga that have found the dagger, and one of the Torchholen tells us to go and figure out what they're doing, and that the Naga are trying to use it to create like a killer storm that's going to wipe everyone out. And so you get the dagger from the Naga, and the dagger starts talking to you, just like back in Legion. And when it does, then it directs you to kill a Void Elf, or a Blood Elf, I guess, more accurately, who's performing a ritual. And so you go kill the Blood Elf. Xal'atath takes the body of that Blood Elf and uses that body to walk freely. We then go with Xal'atath to the lair of N'Zoth, where Xal'atath turns us over to N'Zoth and then says, hey, honor our bargain, free me from the dagger. So N'Zoth says, yeah, you're free. And Xal'atath bounces. We were used. That's all there is to it. We got used. We got taken advantage of by Xal'atath. She got us good. So, but we wanted loot. So, what were we supposed to do? Anyway, so we didn't see Xal'atath again until Dragonflight. So if you recall, during the Dawn of the Infinite Mega Dungeon, at the end of that, when we kill Chronolord Deus, we get a cutscene with Eridikron holding the Dark Heart saying, yeah, do you ever wonder why the Titans want to preserve this timeline? And then he bounces. And as he goes through a void portal, we see a Blood Elf silhouette in the void portal. There's Xal'atath. There's our, and everybody suspect, oh my god, it's Xal'atath, she's back. So that's where Xal'atath came from, and that's why when a lot of people were not really familiar, like, who is Xal'atath? Like, who the heck is this? That's why, because it was kind of a, like, if you didn't do the Crucible of Storms quest line, or if you didn't play a Shadow Priest in Legion, you have no idea who this is. So yeah, and so I like that Blizzard is now building her up and giving us a little bit of the story and showing us a little bit of her character. We got the smirks in like 3 different videos from her, but now we see this almost unhinged horror type villain in the Nerubian cinematic. So I'm really excited about Xal'atath. I'm really excited about the War Within in general. I know I said I want to play Classic, but I'm just so psyched for the War Within right now. I can't. I'm just. I think honestly, it comes from just wanting to do something, and I can't play the War Within yet, so I'm just like, look at something else. Anyway, so that's the lore that I wanted to go over. I know that I'm being vague on some of the areas because I'm trying not to get into spoilers, but just suffice it to say that Xal'atath and the Nerubians, obviously we know how that came to be because we saw the cinematic for that. The Earthen, their story is going to get revealed really quickly, and we're going to know a lot about them really fast, and basically what is driving their story forward, and what we can expect going into that. And as for the Arathi, I feel like there's a lot to come still from the Arathi, and we'll see we'll see where that goes. So, oh boy, yeah, that was a lot. I don't normally do lore episodes, and this is why, because I start to get overwhelmed because it's a lot of talking about stuff that it's like going over history that's fake, So I'm like, well, somebody just made all this up, and then when they didn't like it, they changed it. So, but it is fascinating to me. I love to sit and read Warcraft wiki and just. I'll spend all day just going from page to page. I didn't know that. That's when the Dwarf Empire was first formed, or whatever. Yeah, so it's to me it's interesting and fascinating. But I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want me to do more lore episodes, please let me know, because I do like going through the lore. It's just hard sometimes to put it into a explainable format that's not just me reading Warcraft wiki on a microphone. So anyway, that's going to wrap up our show for today. Thank you so much for listening. It is always a pleasure and a privilege of mine to get on this microphone and talk to you. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can reach me on Twitter. I am at Denethar. Or you can also check me streaming on Twitch TV. I am Denethar01. Or you can check out my YouTube channel. It is also at Denethar01. If you want to check out any of the links for the podcast, we do have a link tree that is in the show notes. Or you can just go to linktr.ee/Azeroth United, and it'll have all the links there. I am working on getting a Patreon page set up, and really more than anything, I'm just trying to get some conversation and community going. I'm a member of several podcast Discords, and I do enjoy being a part of that, but I feel like sometimes some of the conversation gets away from where I want to have that, and just like I started a podcast because I wanted to create the podcast that I would want to listen to. In the same context, if I want to create a Discord community or something like that, or Patreon community, then it's going to be the one that I want to be a part of, and that I want to run, and that I want to manage and have the conversations that I would like to. So and also provide a really good place for feedback, because I feel like sending an email is really tough, and if somebody could just post on Discord, that's probably a lot easier. So the Discord server is up, and we do have some conversations going. It is a little slow right now, but yeah, if you want to join and jump in, there's people already on there, so yeah, feel free to get on there, and you'll get a very nice warm welcome. So all right, anyway, again, thank you for listening. Remember to be good to each other out there. It's a real person on the other side of that keyboard, so remember to be kind, smile, be good to each other. All right, I love you all, and I'll see you in Azeroth.